Okay. So on the last working day, we learned how we can load the data. Actually, we are covering ETL part by Python. So we have done extract by Python. We have done transform by Python. We also done loading part of the last working day. One more thing, I have provided a assignment on yesterday's session. So I think you missed that session. So I'm just providing the assignment in the group again.
Okay.
An exercise as well as the test result. Not this one. I send it twice. Not this one, actually. Just providing the data set for once more time. Okay. So if you just open the Word doc, there is the assignment. The assignment is just reflecting to use Python as a ETL tool. There are three steps of the exercise. The first step will be doing the extraction part. Second step will be doing the transformation part. And the third step will be doing the data loading part at the target database. And yesterday also demonstrated, you can see in the target database, I told Snowflake DB. You need to load the data in Snowflake DB. So how to create a Snowflake account and uh, Snowflake account is just like it's a cloud hosted database. In our SQL classes, we learned about MySQL database. So it's a cloud hosted database. How to load the data in Snowflake? That is the exercise we need to do. So please try this. If there is any stuck point, we'll be discuss the same in the class. Maybe after 1 or 2 days, I'll be solving this thing. But before that, I'm trying every one of you. Just you can try to solve it or send me the code. Maybe in my mail. Maybe you can push the code in your Git, and we can check it from there. Or otherwise, I'll be showing everything. Maybe 1 or 2 days. After 1 or 2 days. Okay. Okay. So today I'll be just closing Python topic. Before that, I'll be just showing few more things. By Python, we can also do the visualization part. Okay, we have some libraries called matplotlib. There we can use pyplot class and we can do plotting part. Visualization means during our BI chapters I told when our data arrows or data marts are ready, then the particular data will be pulled by the visualization team and they can create suitable charts and graphs in the dashboards. Okay. For that thing, there are responsible tools are there, just like Power BI, Tableau, uh, Cognos, Click. All those tools are there to do this thing. But Python is also having that capability, but not exactly just like the tool. But Python is also having this kind of capability by using matplotlib. Okay, so I have just demonstrated two example, this one and this one. Let me first run this one. This is a basic example. I just declared an independent variable within a list. Just like x equal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's in list. So we have different data points in x-axis. Then I also declared the dependent variable y 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Okay. Then I'm calling a scatter plot on top of this PLT. So PLT dot scatter within the bracket, I'm calling the parameter x and y. Okay. and putting plt.show. If I run it, it's not, sorry, it's test3. This is the one test3, so I just change the page.
Okay.
So you can see this is the plot. So based on X and Y, we can get this kind of plot. It is not only scatter plot, we can change it. We can choose bar plot, we can choose line chart, anything. Okay. So based on
Okay.
our chart preference, charts and graphs preference, they will be giving us output. So the if the particular thing is not very much complex, the visualization, if it's simple charts and graphs, then it will not, we can do this kind of Python charts and graphs plotting part. Okay.
Okay.
So this way we can do analysis part by Python. The next thing, I'm just going to comment this thing. I commented this thing out. And this is the practical scenario. So when we'll be live in a project, there will not be getting this kind of easy list to be plotted. So what kind of things we can plot? So let's took the same exam result CSV. I'm going to create a data frame. Then going ahead with the aggregation based on name and subject. We are doing the main operation. Let me just run till this portion. How df1 looks like. Print df1. So what is doing actually, let me just repeat once more time. We are creating a data frame and pandas is helping to read the CSV file which is residing into that Microsoft location exam result.csv, and it's converting the same thing into data frame. After that, we are doing some aggregation based on name and subject. We are getting the mean, arithmetic mean. Let me run it and get the output. Okay, so this is the data frame value. This is the final one. Name, subject, age, marks, just this way. Or we can just do the thing based on name, not subject. Okay, because you can see Alex history, Alex maths, but I need
Mhm.
Alex average marks in this way. Yes, now Alex's average marks is this. Every student is having average marks. Now I want a plot between name and marks. I want a subplot.
Okay.
So I'm just commenting this thing out. This is a proper business requirement. So this kind of things user can see by themselves. It's not only for data analytics, for data scientists. Uh, the other data visualizations. Whoever wants to see the data with a visualized way. So they want this kind of graphs, and they can do by this way. So here I'm just declaring a subplot. So it's same as plot, but subplot is another method on top of PLT. Then I'm declaring on top of the subplot name AX, whichever plot I want to do, just AX dot. It can be a scatter plot, it can be a bar plot, anything. Okay. So declare the particular plot and pass the variable on top of which you are going to plot. First, it should be independent variable, comma, dependent variable. The syntax is same as just like this. X, Y, X was independent, Y was dependent. The same thing as this is a data frame column. So I'm just calling data frame name versus data frame marks. Okay, let me just run this. I think you just check the data over here. So Alex is receiving 700, Arnab is receiving 500, Bihan 500, Raghu 700. So this way we have this figure. So
Okay.
I can quickly identify the thing by checking this kind of plot, rather checking from the data frames data itself. Okay, so this is how the plot is working. Okay, just I touched this thing. And one more thing, from tomorrow session, I'll be showing visualization tool. Okay, I think Naga just joined. So we are recording, we started the recording. So please check the recording, whatever you have missed. And I also provided
Yeah,
one
sure, sir.
particular exercise. Yeah, I
Okay.
think you can access the chat, correct? Or I already
Yes, sir.
provided, you cannot. Okay. So there I put the exercise, whatever, I mean, that same exercise I put on last working day, but there is also, I mean, other persons joined. Maybe for the timing conflicts. So we joined at 8 a.m. CST, the same region last day. Maybe that is why I missed most of you. Okay. So this is how we can do the visualization on top of Python. On Python, I'll be not be going to show any other thing. Okay, one more thing. So the data loading strategy in the exercise, if you can open the exercise, you can see while loading the data at Snowflake, we are using a truncate load strategy there. There are another strategy called insert load or update insert load. This kind of things we'll be also learning by exercise. I'll be showing you this kind of things in exercise. But before that, please solve this kind of exercise. The exercise that I have provided is very simple. Just we are using Python as a ETL tool. Okay. And I put three steps there. First step is for extraction. Second step is for transformation. Transformation is very simple. I just provided the exercise just for joining purpose. You need to join three data frames and you need to extract those three required fields, not three, four required fields at the output data frame. Okay. Okay. Now the next topic we are going to be learning today, it's Git. So why we are learning Git? Actually, if we are joined as a developer or any other role, especially for the developer, Git is very, very important. Not only developer, the support member of the project, because whatever codes we are writing to be deployed. So we are writing some codes. We are creating some tables. Maybe we are writing, creating some tables or creating some database views, just like this. But this kind of codes we are not writing anywhere. We are going to write this thing. We are storing this thing in a repository. Okay, the repository can be Git. Git is very, very popular version controlling repository. Why we are telling this version controlling, I'll be showing this thing today. So let me open the PPT for Git. Okay, so Git is a mandatory thing when you will be live in a project. You will be more accustomed with Git. But before going ahead with the project, some even if you are just going to have the interviews and all, so many of the people, many of the developers, they just put their Git link. So you can also create your GitHub account online there. You can create the public repository and you can put your coding styles there. Okay, when you'll be putting this thing and you want everything to be accessible by the interviewer can also see your coding styles over there. So Git, I mean, is also been used for whatever you have learned during your learning phase. You can also put this kind of code over there. So Git is a version control system. Why it's version control system? Uh, I mean, we can see whatever things I have modified in the last version. So maybe I joined in a development project. The project is maybe 2 years of both. I mean, the project can be completed 1 or 2 years. Okay. So you started the project, and in each of the cycle, maybe after 2 weeks or 3 weeks, one cycle completed or one iteration completed. So in each of the cycle, you are going to push each coding style or code into database. Suppose you are going to introduce some table in the current phase. So you are going to push the same thing by writing the code in GitHub repository. Okay. Now, after few days, you want some modification. So whatever table you have generated, you want some modification or you want to delete some of the tables. So you can go to the previous version of the deployment, whatever we have deployed in the last iteration, we can modify this thing. Okay, so that is why we can go to any version. Okay, especially the historical version. I want to see which particular commit I have done in that particular version. So I can see all those things. Okay, Git is free and open source tool. It is distributed in nature. Distributed means lots of people can work in the same GitHub. Maybe a lots of developers can accessing a single GitHub project. They are all doing the same project update with different things. Maybe some people are checking particular tables. Maybe some people are checking a lot. I mean, big Git codes. So, but the Git repository is the single one. So everyone can access it. Okay, some more features are there. We can track changes across multiple files. We can do a time travel into old version. Whatever old version of codes are there, we can go ahead with the time travel. These things I already mentioned. Then roll back to the previous version. Something happens with the last version. I don't want this piece of code. I want the previous version to be back. I can do this thing. Okay. Collaborate and share changes. As I mentioned, it's a distributed kind of stuff. So many developers are working on top of this, can collaborate changes among each other. Combine changes, the same thing. Compare versions of a project. I want to compare different versions in the same project. I want to compare it. So I can do the same thing over here as well. Okay. Now the next important topic is Git versus GitHub. Let me make it a maximize one. Yeah. So Git versus GitHub. I think most of us has, heard about what is Git, what is GitHub, but what is the main difference between Git and GitHub? Git is the main software and GitHub is a service on top of this Git software. Okay, Git is the concept. You can install Git at your local, and without a network connection, you can work on top of Git. If you have Git installed in your system, you can create your own repository in a particular folder location, and inside this folder location, you can maintain all the files, whatever files you are going to develop in your local system without doing a network on. You can do, you can just use the Git functionality at your system. But as GitHub is a service, GitHub is hosted in portal. Okay, so network must be there. When we are live in a company, they are using a particular service. The service can be GitHub or any competitor service of GitHub, but GitHub is the most popular one. We are not going to use directly the Git software there. Okay, because in a particular project, lots of people, lots of developer, lots of support team members, they will be using the GitHub repository. Okay, so When we'll be live in a project, we'll be focusing on GitHub. There are also, those are the difference. Okay. I'm not going to repeat this thing because you can quickly check it. Git is maintained by Linux. GitHub is maintained by Microsoft. Git is installed locally on the system. GitHub is hosted on the web. Git is a command line tool. Okay. By putting command line, if you already learned Linux, so there we are creating directory. How to do that? Change directory. So this kind of same kind of things we required for Git as well by handling Git in our local system. I'll be also giving some basic introduction on top of Git. After that, I'll be switching GitHub in our later slides. Okay. Yeah. In the last second slide of this difference part, we are having some competitor product of Git as well as GitHub. Competitor product in market, CVS, Azure DevOps Server, Subversion, Mercurial. So those are different competitor product as well as for GitHub we are having GitLab, Gitbucket. Those are different service based on Git only. AWS Code Commit. But Git and GitHub, the particular software and this service is the most popular one. Okay. Till days we do not have such competitor just like Git and GitHub. Now I'm going to give some quick introduction on top of Git. I know, this is not much very important for a company purpose because why you are going to install this thing in your local and why you want to maintain all your file system in Git. This can be a question. So that is why I'm just quickly covering Git and then how this is useful in GitHub. I'll be just quickly touching those parts as well in today's session. So if you want to install Git in your local system, just let me just open this link. gitscm.com. Yeah, this is the particular website. So you can download it, the latest version for Windows 2.44. Okay. And if you download and install this thing, it should be looking like this Git bash. Okay. By this Git bash, if you open the network, if you have the network connectivity, you can also using Git bash, you can do the things, activity in GitHub by the Git bash. Okay. So it's also used for the local repository system as well as it will also helpful if you are working in GitHub portal. But Git bash, as I mentioned, if we just double click on top of Git bash, it should be a command line window, just like the Linux programming part. So nowadays, people are not going to use this kind of command line interface. Whoever is having the expertise, they are feeling comfortable, they can definitely use. By writing codes, Linux codes on top of Git bash, they're doing file push, file pull, this kind of operation. Okay. Okay. We are also having some Git GUI. So whoever is not comfortable with the Linux command and all, they are installing this kind of graphical user interface, just like GitHub desktop version, source tree, tower, Git Karen. So this kind of softwares are also available in the market. So you can install any one of them. You can also do whatever you are doing in Git bash. You can do this thing in the user interface part. Okay. The first thing is what is Git repository. Git repository is the main thing where we are storing our file to track all the changes. What kind of changes we are doing daily basis. It's maintain the history, which particular day, which changes I have done. So it will be tracking this record. Okay. So how to create a Git repository in your local system? Just you can open a particular folder location in your system and you want this folder should be under control of Git repository. So just open the folder and open the Git bash. Just type cd change directory to that new folder. Okay. And just put the command git init. Okay. If you just push the command, then that particular folder will be working as the Git repository. Okay. So this is the command line prompt in Git bash. If you want to create new repository, this is the code for that. There is another called Git status. Suppose you are uploading, you are doing the development part over there, but the things are not getting saved directly in Git. Okay, so this kind of what are unsaved changes, this kind of thing we can check it from Git status. It provides information on current status of Git repo and its content. Okay, now you are modifying some files. You are doing some development in Python and going to save it in .py format into that folder location, into the repository. Okay, so what you need to do, you need to commit it. How to commit, I'll be telling, but we can save this particular file, that is fine. If we save it, just Control S into that location, maybe the file will be saved there, but the Git will not track the changes until we do the commit statement. So that is why in the repository we need to follow the Git rules. So suppose we are working on a particular stuff, maybe on a particular coding file. We have a particular file, we are coding on top of it, and I want the particular changes should be tracked by Git. So I need to add the changes there and I need to commit it. Okay, I have better pictorial diagram over here in this way. Working directory, I'm pushing the command git add, and whatever changes I have done, that should be coming to a staging area. So commit is a two-layer things. First, I need to git add whatever unsaved file change that should be coming to staging area. Okay. And if we push git commit command in the git bash window, whatever file was there in staging area, those will be pushed to the repository. Okay, git repository. So first we need to add the unsaved change, and after saving it to staging area, if we just push the code git commit, then whatever staged changes were there, that should be pushed to main repository. So this is the way we are committing any changes into the main file. Okay. This is also the GitHub desktop looks like. Okay. So commit, checkout, this kind of options are there. Suppose you are, going ahead with some changes. Suppose you have some file. Okay. So green color, the green line you can see some people are working on top of that, and they're going ahead with some changes. While doing the changes, while they want the changes to be reflected in the GitHub repo, then they are doing the commits. Just like this is a commit point, this is a commit point, this is a commit point. And for each of the commit points, they are putting some description. what particular changes in the code they have done into that committing part. Okay. Those are separate branch. You can see some developers has create some branch from this commit point. Okay. So whatever the first developer has done from this work, someone pull the code in another branch, and there the second developers are doing the developer as per his own way. Okay. He is doing the committing part over here in this way. This is called branching concept. We can branch a streamline same development folder. Suppose I want to change separate things from the another developer, so I can create my own branch and do the coding pattern and commit it. But at the final, when our codes are ready, we need to push all the changes in a single branch called main branch. And the main branch will be deployed in the environment. So whatever coding part we are putting it over here, that ultimately needs to be deployed. Maybe in development environment, then QA, then UAT, then production, one by one. The same thing happens for all the project. Okay. Okay. Till now, any doubt? I'm telling a lot. If there is any doubt or anything, please tell me. Any doubt so far from anyone?
No, sir.
Okay. So this is how the Git UI looks like. Okay, I'm going back to the Git bash. That means the Linux window. Okay. So Git branches concept I already provided. Suppose two or three developers are working in a same coding part, then they can create their own branches. So I want to do some work in a particular module. The other developers, they are also doing their part in a separate module. So we can create our own branches and we can push the coding part in individual area. And when our coding is ready, we can commit the code. We can push our code into main branch in this way. Okay, because at the final, when we'll be going to push all the codes at the end, then all our feature module should be present in the main branch. Otherwise, a particular development part that will be go live, but the other developers they will not be go live because they are working in separate branch. That is why whatever branching we have created during our project, after finalizing or testing all of our codes, we can push our coding part into the main branch, and the main branch codes will be deployed into the environment. Okay, this is the concept. So while creating the main branch, separate branch from the main master branch, we can just put in this way: git switch master. Master is the main branch over here. So git switch master, if we put this kind of command in git bash, it will be creating a new branch. Okay. And when you want, suppose this is a feature branch, you want to merge this feature branch, just put git merge feature branch. It will be merging the latest coding will be merged with the main branch. Okay, this is a branching concept. And why we require branch? As I mentioned, in a same coding document, suppose we have separate module, and each module should be handled by each of the developer. So why should you wait sequentially one by one? Maybe I am just the work can be completed parallelly. Okay, but maybe earlier the concept was we need to complete the thing sequentially. First module will be completed, he will be handing over this document to the next developer. The next developer will be completing their stuffs and handing over to the next developer. So this kind of things, one particular developer, they need to work quickly and they need to hand it over to the next person. But over here, if we are creating branches, multiple persons can work parallelly. Okay, they can develop their work at their own way. They can take their time, they can create branches and solve this kind of issues. Moving to the next topic, merge conflicts. Why merge conflicts happen? Suppose I'm going to merge, but this thing will happen. Suppose two developers are working in the same file. Okay. So the first developer changed something, and the second developers are also changing something in the same file. So when both of them are going to push or merge their code, there will be a conflict which one to resides, because there are two different changes. So that is why, by how we can avoid them. The best practice will be, when suppose I'm the second developer, I'll be waiting. I need to check whether the same file is being worked by any other person. If so, then we just need to wait. And when the first person's work is completed, only for that file, then after completion, we can pull the file and then we can made our change. Okay. Or we can manually remove the conflict. We need to check which particular developer's code should be residing there. Maybe first one, maybe second one, or maybe both of them. We need to check it, and by watching it, we can change it manually. This is how merge conflicts works. Git stashing. This is another important terminology. Suppose you started some work as a developer and you already completed 2 weeks worth of work. Okay. After completing your work and pushing all those changes in Git, you are going to commit, and it's temporarily saved in Git. You did not push the code in the main branch. It's temporarily saved in the Git. Especially it should be uncommitted changes. It's ready to be committed. You just make the changes, but it's not committed. Then after that, suddenly you found from the requirement analysis that the requirement has been modified. So whatever you have changed for last 2 weeks, those are not required currently to be pushed into the main code. And they have some separate requirement as of now. Maybe they're also telling after 3-4 months, this kind of development activity can be repeated. So if we have this kind of scenario, we can go ahead with git stash. Okay, what it will do? It will just save the uncommitted changes into some temporary location. Okay. So all the coding stuffs, whatever we have done in the last 2 weeks, you can stash it somewhere. And when you require this kind of code again, then you just have to go to git stash pop. It will be coming to your feature branch again to be developed. Okay, so this is stashing concept. Okay, so those are git concepts. Now in a company, we will be working any one of the services. Maybe it's a GitLab, maybe it's a GitHub, anything. GitHub is the most popular one. I also a GitHub account. Let me show you the user interface, how GitHub account looks like. You can also create your own. Okay, github.com. The portal is very simple. It's github.com. I also registered. I have logged in there. So that's why you can see this is my repository. I create one repository there. You can create multiple repository. So suppose I am doing SQL and Python. For SQL, I created one repository called Soptic underscore SQL underscore practice. I can create a new repository over here as well. Okay. And I made this repository as a public one. So that you can also see whatever I'm doing the coding part, you can also see at your side. Okay. I can create separate repository. I'm going to repository part. If I want to create a new repository, suppose Soptic Python, just under Soptic Nandi drive, I'm creating Soptic Python practice. We have the option whether it can be public or private. If we put public, means I want everyone to see my coding pattern or coding standards. So that is why nowadays the interviewers, they want you should be whatever you have done during your graduation or master degree, you can put those things there, and based on that they will be, giving the score of your interview or just like this. Okay. I also created Soptic Python practice. So this is a repository. You can store the codes over here of Python. We have now two different repositories. SQL practice as well as Python practice. Both of them are public. Okay. Moving to the slides. This is GitHub. Now, GitHub is a portal specific, as I mentioned. All the coding stuffs will be stored in the GitHub portal itself. Suppose I'm a new developer. I see this kind of GitHub is already there in my company. I need to work on top of this. I have the requirement of few enhancement on top of the existing code. So what I'll be doing, I can clone the entire repository into my local. Because while doing the development part, I need to debug the codes. I cannot debug this thing codes in online. So I can clone the thing. How we can clone it? You can clone in multiple ways. You can directly clone from the portal itself. Okay. Clone means save this coding part in your local system. That is called clone. You can use git clone and put the URL of the git. That is also feasible by git bash. This is for git bash who are using git bash, who don't want to use from the portal itself directly, who are quite efficient in Linux command and all, they can use git bash command and use git clone. Okay. Or there is another option, manually download. I told putting git clone told yes. If we have the UI as well, just like I told few slides ago, we have GitHub desktop. So this kind of or tortoise, this kind of UIs are available. You can also clone by this kind of tool. Okay. So the first step should be we need to clone the portals that coding base to our local system. When we are successfully able to clone it, then we can change the thing at our local. Suppose I downloaded lots of Python files. I open the entire project by file, open, and I just open this thing in my local. Now, suppose I'm doing the execution and debugging part. When my debug is completed, okay, suppose my debug is completed, my new development is completed, I can push the change to the remote branch again. First, I need to push the change in my local. Whatever things I have developed, I need to push it in local systems. When my local files are ready, then I can push those changes into remote branch. This is the thing we can do by git bash command prompt. Otherwise, it's very simple in the portal as well as GitHub desktop. In UI, we have each of the command. How to push, how to pull, they are having the commands. Let me open it. You can see the options are there for push. This is fetch. This is pull. there is option for push as well, commit. So whatever we are doing during our git bash coding logic, the same kind of things we can do over there while putting the thing portal or directly in the GitHub desktop version. Okay. So the thing I told, suppose I done everything in local, I can push the change into Git remote branches. Okay. Similarly, you can do Git pull. Suppose I want all my local repository to be up to dated, not only local, for remote as well. Okay. Suppose I want all the things from the master branch into my whatever branch I'm working currently. I want this branch to be updated from git main branch. Then I can just go ahead with git pull command. It will just copy whatever things are not there at main branch. It will pull everything to the another branch where I'm going to develop. Okay, so git, this is called git pull command. Based on the syntax, I think you can able to understand what is push, what is pull. Okay, so this way we can change the git coding part by pushing, by pulling and all. But nowadays we have some extra features in the IDEs. Just like we can directly connect to the Git repository. Over here, what I'm doing, I'm connecting this local file system. But nowadays we have option directly we can connect to the Git repository. We have the option. Okay. So where I can see the option, just maximizing the screen. In the VCS, we have the option for Git. So just go there. It's not only for this PyCharm, all the current IDs are having this kind of features. We can directly connect to the remote Git repository branch. Okay, just like over here you can see share project on GitHub or browse VCS repository. So we can directly connect, create a Git repository to the Git branches, and we can directly code over there. So no need to direct clone, then work on top of local file system, then push the change in the file system. Those kind of things are no more required if we have this kind of features in our IDE. Okay, so we can directly change it. If we are quite confident that the coding style is fine, then we can push those changes into main branches, main or remote branches. Okay, so this is the important steps for Git. So as of now, those are the things. Just open. I'll be suggesting open a Git account if it's already not with your name. So open the GitHub account and whatever coding you are going ahead, just try to push it into your branches. Just like this thing for Softic SQL practices. I just put some dummy commands over there. So this is my main branch. If we just go ahead with everything in my main branch, I can create the files over here. You can add coding part over here, just like in employee file. I put just like a simple command, create star from employee. I'm going to create some create statement and insert statement there. So this kind of thing I can put, or I can create a new branch from the main branch, just like test one, this kind of branch. So when our branch, whatever development activity we want to do by the branch, when it's completed, we can push all my changes to the main branch. Okay. So this way we can change or commit the things in Git. This is very, very important for each and every developer, and we need to learn all those things. Okay. So that's all for today for Git. If there is any stuck point, you can tell. Otherwise, we will be closing the session. Tomorrow, we'll be learning the visualization on top of a visualization tool that is called Power BI. It's a Microsoft tool. Tomorrow, we'll be going to learn this thing. Okay. So that's all for today's session. Let's connect tomorrow. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.